We're up to, yeah, go ahead, do Zimun. Okay, fine. So we were on page 98. We were talking about making an ohel on Shabbat, making a tent. So that is a sewer, just like they used to put the curtains and the coverings on the Mishkan, on the tabernacle in the desert. That's what they used to do on Shabbat to rebuild it. So therefore on Shabbat, whatever they did then, we're not allowed to do on Shabbat. So therefore, making a tent is a sewer. The question is, what if there is already a tent and you want to add to a previously made tent? Right, 24. Although one may not erect a new permanent or temporary tent on Shabbat, you may extend an existing temporary one. Therefore, a canopy that is a tefach wide is allowed to be extended on Shabbat. Okay, so therefore it has to be actually open. A lot of people, they have these awnings that are next to their house. It's attached to the side of their house. And they want to sit outside in the summer and they want to extend the awning. The awning, if it's open a tefach, 8 centimeters, you'll be allowed to crank it more and open it more, even though you're making a bigger tent. Why? Because it was already open. It's already existing temporary tent. You don't leave this whole year. You close and open, it's a temporary one. But if it was closed completely, it wasn't open at all, so be it forbidden to crank it open because you're making a tent. Okay, good. 27. If a sukkah became invalid on Sukkot, like the schach fell off or the walls collapsed, one may tell a non-Jew to put it back up on Yom Tov or Shabbat. Preferably, one should ask a non-Jew to ask another non-Jew or hint to a non-Jew to do it. However, if there's a tefach of schach remaining, there's a tefach already up, you're allowed to add more schach. Because you're not making, you're allowed to add to a temporary ohel, temporary tent. And the sukkah, by nature, is a temporary structure. It's temporary. It's not meant to be there for more than 8 days. So therefore, you're allowed to add more schach when it already had a tefach of schach remaining. Okay, good. 29. One may place a plastic tablecloth over laundry that's hanging outside on a clothesline in order to protect the clothing from getting wet, provided that the clothesline are within 3 tvachim of each other. This way, the clotheslines can already be considered ohel, and by adding the plastic, one is only adding to a present ohel. So what happens? You have clotheslines, and within they're 3 tvachim of each other. What do we say? There's a halacha called, we learn in Sukkah, levud. Very good. Levud applies all year round. Levud doesn't only apply during Sukkot. So three lines of clothes are within 3 tvachim of each other. It look like they're connected. They look like solid. Since this is more than a tefach, so it's looked like as if there's already a tent here. Therefore, I'm allowed to add a plastic tablecloth on top because the tent is already there. Okay, good. 30. You're allowed to make a ohel that does not maintain its shape and is supported by people holding it. Let's say the ohel is supported not by attached to something. It's supported by people. Simchat Torah, this happens, right? 31. Simchat Torah, it's permissible to spread a talit over the heads of the children getting aliyah, even though we're making a tent, because it's not a real tent. It's held up by people. It's not called a real tent. So therefore, it's allowed to do such a thing. Okay, 33. One may wear a hat with a wide brim on Shabbat unless it's very hard and comes out more than a tefach and is very firmly in place. Generally, the felt hats worn nowadays poses no problem since they're worn more for style and not to protect against the elements. So problem is, Shulchan Aruch writes that you're not allowed to wear a hat. You know those ladies, they wear those big hats, those sun hats. And if it's very hard, not flexible, it's a sur because it's making a tent. It's basically like a tent for your head. So therefore, those people who wear the yeshiva hats today, right? The rabbis, they wear those black hats. That's meant for style and for status. It's not meant really for protection of the elements. Actually, we wouldn't want these to get exposed to the elements. They'll get ruined that way. So that's why, even though the brim is more than a tefach out, especially if you're very yeshivish, right? So it's a bigger hat. So then those are more than tefach wide. It's permitted. And it's not that hard, and they don't wear it for the elements. But a guy who wears a baseball cap on Shabbat, right, and he's doing it, why? It's a very hard hat, doesn't bend, and it's sticks out more than tefach. And he says, I wear it because I don't want the sun on me. I'd like to walk outside. I don't want the rain to fall on me. I'll walk outside. So I wear a hat. So over there, that'll be a problem on Shabbat. But if he's wearing it because it's my style, I rock a hat. It's a fancy hat. And I like the look. I have a bad hair day, so I need to wear a hat to cover my hair. I have bad hair. So therefore, that'll be okay. But if he's doing it for the elements, that'll be an issue. 34. It is prohibited to open or to use a previously open umbrella on Shabbat. Why? Number one, when you open it, you're making a tent. Okay, it's ohel. Number two, umbrella is considered muktzah. Since you could build a tent with it, so the whole thing becomes muktzah because you could do melacha with it, just like a remote. You might turn on the TV, right? You might turn on the AC, and that would be cause it to make it muktzah. So to over here, you do melacha with this, it makes it muktzah. C, some say it's an issue of din dechol, doing an act that is not in the spirit of Shabbat. Since you go and travel during the day, during the week, wearing umbrellas, it takes away from the ambiance of Shabbat when you're walking around with umbrellas. And therefore, D, number 4, is there might be no eruv in the city, and you might come to carry in a place where there's eruv. According to some Rishonim, the fact that even if you open it before Shabbat and you leave it outside open and you put it over your head, that is also considered making a tent, just like when you put on the big brimmed hat we said is a problem, so to putting this umbrella over your head is a problem. What about making a partition? That was talking about ceilings. What about making a wall? So 35, it is prohibited to make a permanent partition on Shabbat. This is prohibited since it's considered a type of shelter, even if no roof is made. Permanent partitions are like concrete wall or wooden fence. What about temporary partitions? Let's say I have guests. A whole family has nowhere to stay. Tell them, come stay in my house. So in my house, I'm going to put them in a room, but I need to divide the room. I want to put up a curtain. I'll divide it. My kids will be here. The family will be on that side of the room. I put up a curtain, like in the olden days when everybody made immigration. Everybody stayed in one apartment. They all put up these curtains to make it a partition. 36. One may erect a temporary partition by hanging sheets in order to divide a room for the purpose of privacy. Similarly, it is permitted to set up a partition for the purpose of separating man and woman for prayers or for a kiddush. What about let's say there's a window and it has a lot of sun. And my son says, Abba, the sun is bothering me. I can't play here. It's too hot. It's bothering me. When there's no curtains, can I put up a curtain? Somehow erect the curtain and let it be protecting the sun? 37. One may hang a curtain in order to block the sun, even though one does not have intention to remove it. Similarly, one may hang a parochet, the curtain in front of the aron in the synagogue. However, it's proper that it should be put up by two people at the same time to avoid making a possible ohel if it bends over on one side before the other side is hung. So he says it's better to do it with two people, but technically even yourself it's allowed. Last one, 38. The foldable canopy on top of a baby stroller should be open the tefah before Shabbat. That way you could extend it on Shabbat. If once it was open at tefah, you're allowed to even also add a plastic covering on top of it because it's all considered adding to an existing ohel. But if the stroller is closed, there's a mahloket and better not to do it. Baruch Adonai Olam. Amen.